Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. I'm here with the coach, John Brent.
And I'm here with the vet, Mr. Ian Griffin. Man, I'm excited about finishing this one up. We had such a great time last week.
Yeah, so Cuban Missile Crisis number 2.
Dose.
So we are on it. So let's kick it off, Coach.
All right, I'm going to give a little recap where we kind of are. We already talked about where Batista was actually overthrown by Fidel Castro with the help of the Argentine great Che Guevara. We have them getting a little bit closer to the Soviet Union than we really wanted them to, especially being that close, as we said, 90 miles from Florida. Where we kind of want to kick it real quick is the CIA director at that time comes in and tells the president, hey, man, I think that these Cubans, there's some missiles down there. We think maybe there's some medium-range ballistic missiles there. Just one day later, in a speech, the Soviet foreign minister, Gromyko, says, any attack on Cuba is going to mean a war on this country, on his country, meaning the Soviet Union. And then just 1 month later, almost to the day, the U.S. obtained the evidence that the nuclear missiles were stationed in Western Cuba. 2 days later, Kennedy and his advisors discussed what they're going to do, diplomatically, militarily. And Gromyko then meets with Kennedy, tells him, oh, no, it's just for defense. Kennedy don't believe him. And then Kennedy on TV says that we have the presence of these offensive missiles, which was I think a key word at the time, probably scared the crap out of people. And that at this point, most historians or people that study this believe that that was the closest our country has ever come to a nuclear war. And even Robert Kennedy said in the 13th Day book that it was absolutely the most terrifying time of his political life. So that's kind of where we are right now. And so I'm going to kick this back to you. Let's get this thing kicked off so we can finish up.
So, Coach, the possible solutions, two things I want to cover is the possible solutions that they were offered. There were 6 of them. The first thing I want to cover is the relationship with John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy. Everybody bashed the current president Trump with the relationship he had with his family in office, but Robert Kennedy and JFK had the same thing. They had that closeness, and Robert Kennedy happened to be the person he talked to a good bit and confided in a lot of this here, from what I understand. So anyway, so the 6 responses that the U.S. negotiated was do nothing at all. They wasn't scared of the Soviet. We knew we were vulnerable a little bit, but it was nothing new. Utilize diplomatic pressure to get Russia to remove the missiles. A secret approach, offer Castro a choice of splitting with the Russians or being invaded. Another one, a full-fledged invasion and overthrow Castro. 5 was an airstrike to all known missile sites and just obliterate them, pull the Israeli thing. And the last one was a blockade, use the U.S. Navy to block any missiles from arriving. And if you look at that, we could have easily done the invasion. What the outcome would have been on the other side, who knows? We could have done an airstrike easily and done it. But the blockade demonstrates our ability to do whatever the flip-flop we wanted to do, because we could have still done an invasion afterward. We still could have done an airstrike. So I'll throw it back to you, Coach.
Yeah, and one of the things that we have to realize is we did talk about it last week was Khrushchev refused to remove the missiles, saying the world will not be intimidated by the U.S. and put the blame on the crisis on Kennedy, which was absolutely like, no, I'm not cheating. You're cheating. It's like you tell that to your spouse when you're busted. No, I'm cheating. Yeah. And then so Kennedy actually right after that sent a letter, which was different at the time. You can't just pick up a phone or do now a teletype the same way. He actually sent a letter through through channels directly to President Khrushchev, laying responsibility on the crisis in the Soviet Union. But see how they did it differently. Khrushchev did it publicly, and Kennedy realizes he did not need to disrespect him publicly. He needed to disrespect him privately and say, no, man, this is on you, because publicly then it came out that it was going to be a pissing contest. And Kennedy, that was one of the best diplomatic parts, I believe, of this whole thing, is he realized that if we do it in the public, this is going to end up being a whole lot bigger than if I just say, look, let's have a conversation. So he actually sent that letter on October 25th. He didn't know the response yet, but one day later, the U.S. began discussions about invading Cuba. I mean, that's how crazy it was and how quickly.
So two things I'll say, Coach. Well, one thing about Khrushchev. First of all, those that don't know, Khrushchev came in and he was the first to be at this one position, but pretty much the president of Russia. Okay,
Right.
but he was the first person to be at this one position. I can't think of what it's called. Anyway, but he denounced a lot of the first secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union is what it's called. He denounced Stalin, okay, and all his tactics. He was the first one to do that. So he actually did a lot of good for Russia. But what you kind of alluded to is a leader of Russia cannot show weakness publicly. He can do that behind the scenes and all this other stuff, but he cannot do it publicly. And so Khrushchev wound up writing a letter back.
Exactly.
And the letter he wrote back was, we're both tugging on this rope, and in the middle is a knot. And the further we tug, the tighter this knot comes. Well, we will never be able to untie this knot. Maybe we should relax and just undo the knot, is what he wrote to him. And so, go ahead, Coach.
I mean, in a book called The Crisis Years, when we did our top 5 books, I said that was one of my top 5 books. It's Khrushchev's perspective and Kennedy's perspective into these crisis years that we're talking about in the early 60s. He sent that letter to Kennedy proposing to remove the missiles on the condition that Kennedy would never invade Cuba. I mean, of course, also we're going to remove the missiles threatening the Soviet Union from Turkey. We all hear about that, which Kennedy never at that time really wanted to talk about. But to say you'll never invade Cuba is a really tough position for Kennedy to be in, if you think about it. That means Castro can do what he wants. He can not only can he thumb his nose at us, but he can also do any kind of thing he wants. They can have more communists built up there. They can have more whatever. And I think that's a very, very bad place to be. And I'd hate to be in Kennedy, sitting back at the desk after he read that letter going, never invade Cuba?
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough.
And what I'll say is we never publicly came out and said we're just taking missiles out of Turkey. He did that off to the side as a side note saying, hey, we'll do this and we'll take these out of Turkey, maybe not Italy, but we'll take them out of Turkey. And those missiles specifically out of Turkey, but they didn't advertise that. And there's a problem with that too, is because NATO, that was a major thorn in NATO's side, was them removing that out of there. So he was burning bridges, not just with Turkey, and he did burn bridges to Turkey. And to be honest, if you remember when we went to Iraq, I think that was still in their mind. Hey, dude, you're not coming to the Northern Corridor because you kind of scorned us way back in the day. I think that played a little role of it. And then second, with NATO itself, it really did not stick well with NATO. So it kind of weakened our alliance in NATO, to be quite frank with that. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead, Coach. I'm sorry.
Well, no, one of the things is this whole time period was so, you have to realize how touchy that was. This was a very touchy situation that everybody was trying to play, a public persona and the behind the scenes trying to come to this agreement. But one of the things that almost blew this whole thing, when I look back at it, especially when you study the JFK assassination, fast forward a year later, we're learning the name of Lee Harvey Oswald. But back then, Lee Harvey Oswald worked at the military base that on October the 27th, the U.S. spy plane that went down with Francis Gary Powers in it in Soviet airspace, Oswald worked at that airbase. And so this was like, are you kidding me? We're trying to do all this correctly. And then all of a sudden, a spy plane flies down into Soviet airspace and gets lost. And this was crazy, because that was a big, I'm sure Kennedy thought, what in the hell are y'all doing with this kind of, situation we got going on, sending spy planes over into Russia? This could cause, somebody to push a button. But, it was just a tough time. But later that afternoon, and that's why I'm going to kind of pass it back to you, even though the spy plane went down and it was a very touchy situation, if you read, 13 days, Kennedy agreed on the 27th of October to President Khrushchev's proposal, and a secret condition, you pointed it out, that the U.S. would remove its missiles stationed in Turkey. Don't tell the public. Could you imagine, I'm going to say this, I want to ask you this question. Donald Trump, William Barr, too close of a relationship, right? Yep. We have the President of the United States and his brother making a secret deal, and we're going to lie to the American public for national security, and we're going to remove our missiles from Turkey and don't tell the public or Congress. Could you imagine that today?
Oh, yeah. 4 military sales. We don't have the missiles there. This is the recipe of so-called Ukraine. Nancy going, we passed budget for this. Now, I do got to say one thing. Gary Powers, he was shot down a couple years earlier. And
this is a different spy plane.
Yeah, there was another U-2 spy plane that got shot down, and they were petrified of it. They were reluctant to fly the spy plane over, fearing that the surface-to-air missiles would hit, and sure enough, it did. And the first one, Gary Powers, changed the paradigm of the world also. But this in here, but the way I understood it, once it was shot down, Kennedy didn't really address that much. He just moved on with the crisis and just like, yeah, something happened. I don't know, kind of deal. Could you imagine Jim Acosta talking to him? What do you mean? You don't know. You know what I'm saying? America needs answers right now because I need my ratings to go up. Who cares about national security? So, but you're absolutely right, Coach. To deal with that is almost like what the Ukraine incident was portrayed to be like, and the Democratic Party hails JFK as they should because he's the last damn one worth of crap out of them. But he did the same thing, and he's glorious, So
yeah, I mean, you have to think about how much politics had changed in 50 years. Imagine the president of the United States appointing his brother to attorney general. Imagine Trump or Biden putting their son in that. It wasn't that much different. I mean, Kennedy's hero, Robert Kennedy's hero was his brother, JFK. He would have done anything for him. It's what we read about. Could you imagine the speculation of everything that was made in that? So one more day later, I want to kick this off and throw it at the very end of this. We said on the 27th, Kennedy agrees to Khrushchev to secret condition to get the missiles out of Turkey. But I love what President Khrushchev had to do. The next day, on the 28th of October, he goes over Radio Moscow and announces that he's agreed to remove the missiles from Cuba. Now, people don't really realize this, that was looked at as weakness. And he went ahead and did it to his own people. That was something different because normally Khrushchev would come on Radio Moscow and say, they blinked, they did what I wanted them to do, we didn't do anything, even though actually they would do exactly what Kennedy wanted them to do. But all this played out. A year later, we lost the President Kennedy. And a lot of people believe the reason that we lost President Kennedy was the way that he handled the Bay of Pigs, that he handled the Cuban Missile Crisis, the military. If you get into conspiracy stuff about the CIA, the FBI, the ONI, and all these people working to kind of cover up something, people say, why would they cover up the murder of their own president? This is the kind of stuff that pisses military people off. You tell me to go do something and you don't send in the air support. Tell me to go do something and then you back away. I mean, this is stuff that the military don't like. So
Coach, I'll say this. First of all, if you let's fast forward for a second. Let's go to Jimmy Carter years in the Iran hostage situation, and he at least sent some special forces helicopters in there, but that was a blunder from hell. I mean, they crashed. It was a fiasco. It was a blatant blunder. This deal with the Bay of Pigs, and my hat's off to John F. Kennedy because he's the one that started the JFK Special Warfare School. I mean, we have these special forces because of John F. Kennedy. All right. But, dude, you turned your back on us. This is what they make Rambo movies over. You know what I'm saying? Is he's there by himself. Hey, dude, sorry you're on the beach. We're not giving you no air cover. Who cares? You're on your own, guy. Hope you got your 210 rounds.
Unbelievable.
And he just left him.
Yeah, he did. Left him there just to die. I mean, and the anti-Castro Cubans that he was actually he authorized through Robert Kennedy to train down in Florida to a possible invasion to take out Castro. Those guys were the ones that were leading and heading that thing. And they're like, wait a minute, how can we trust you to take out Castro when you won't even give us support you said that you're training us for and giving us money for? I mean, you just totally backed out. It was crazy. Go ahead. The day of the beach landing, they secured the eject and they were moving forward. Yeah. And it was what failed was his decision not to support them the rest of the way. Exactly. And you're just like, what the flip-flop? You can send a soldier anywhere. If you tell him you support him, he'll go anywhere. He'll go to Antarctica and count penguins for you. I mean, come on. Well, I want to wrap this up. I'll wrap this up and just say this, that we don't realize today, especially their younger generation, even when I teach this, it's kind of hard to let people know the emotions that people that grew up at that time, if you talk to your dad and my dad, of how close we really were to war. And when you actually read some of the players, Robert McNamara and Robert Kennedy's book, when they talk about this time period, and even Khrushchev, it literally was moments that they thought all out nuclear war for the first time. We've never seen anything since then. And to be honest with you, the only way to get any closer to that would actually be to hit the button. I mean, that's how close we were in my estimation.
So the other thing, the grand scheme of the outcome is it leveled the playing field between the two countries. It allowed Russia started producing more weapons and things of that nature. It leveled the playing field. We pulled secretly, because we wouldn't tell our people, missiles out of Turkey, which Russia won that idea. We were able to keep them out of Cuba, so we kind of won that part of it. But in the long haul, Russia kind of got the advantage because we pulled our deterrent out of Turkey, and we also all of a sudden started playing on a mutually assured destruction type of scenario, instead of, hey, we're just the bad boys on the block. You don't have the nukes that we got, and we can launch them in your backyard, and you can't, so screw you. Well, that went out the window then after that. So it changed how we did things a lot. So
yeah, it sure did. And one of the things, it's kind of like, I look back at it now and look at it, says, you know, it's kind of like when there's a kidnapping for ransom and you pay the ransom. Once you pay that ransom, yes, you get your person back and everybody feels all, you know, good inside. But what you've done then is you set the standard from that point forward. If you do something against me, instead of me kicking your ass, I'm going to pay you some money, or I'm going to move my troops out of Turkey or my missiles out of Turkey. Then it kind of takes that big bad boy, emblem off your chest and go, I'm just as equal as you.
Yeah, you're supposed to pay the ransom, get them back, followed by an hour later tomahawk strike.
There you go. I like this, man. I really appreciate this one.
Yep. So this is good. So, hey, so we're going to do a few other ones coming up, and we'll let you know about those. You know, we always talked about that we're about government, politics, history, social events, and sports, and anything Texas. We kind of neglected the history part, and so we're going to try to do these on Mondays to wrap it around. So any questions you got on the Cuban Missile Crisis, or you go, hey, coach, or hey, vet, you don't know what to flip-flop. This, you forgot about this and this and this. Hit us up. We want to hear it because we like to get smarter, be honest.
And last thing I'll say is we do have some followers that we talked to from time to time, and we even had Coach Ingram that might even remember being a child or when this was going on. So if anybody watches this that was alive at that time, tell us what you felt, or do you have a story maybe your father or uncle or somebody told you, how they felt when this was going on, because we'd like to know this. Put that down in the comments, and we've got some great stuff coming forward. I really like this.
Cool. So from the coach
to the vet.
Stay tuned.